Hello, welcome to Walking the Talk, the sermon podcast of Creekside Community Church in San Leandro, California, where we help you to walk out what we talked about on Sunday. My name is Jeff Bruce. I'm one of the pastors here. I'm joined by John Bruce and Max Butler. They're also pastors here, the usual cast and crew. Gentlemen, how are we?
I'm a little concerned.
Really?
Because sitting is the new smoking. I read that in the gym today, so... And I'm sitting right now, so I feel like, I'm smoking.
I feel like that phrase is well worn at this point.
It is?
Yeah.
Well, we don't get that into the gym, so a little behind the times.
It's not a current gym.
Sitting is the old smoking.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
But then if you stand too much, it's not good either. And so I've realized you just have to alternate all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or just accept that our bodies are not permanent.
There's one thing we're not going to.
Yeah.
This just in, you're dying.
Something's going to go wrong.
Something's going to go wrong.
Yeah. It's inevitable.
Yeah. How are we doing otherwise?
Spring in the Bay Area. What could be better?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
It's been nice.
Has been nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're back at it today in 1 Samuel, chapters 14 and 15. Looking at a very bad king who has a very good son. And we'll start with the good son here, Jonathan, in chapter 14, as we look at godly risk. One day, Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man who carried his armor, "Come, let us go over to the Philistine garrison on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Saul was staying in the outskirts of Gibeah in the pomegranate cave at Migron. The people who were with him were about 600 men, including Ahijah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of the Lord in Shiloh, wearing an ephod. And the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Within the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over to the Philistine garrison, there was a rocky crag on the one side and a rocky crag on the other side. The name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other Seneh. The one crag rose on the north in front of Michmash, and the other on the south in front of Geba. Jonathan said to the young man who carried his armor, "Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for nothing can hinder the Lord from saving by many or by few." And his armor-bearer said to him, "Do all that is in your heart. Do as you wish. Behold, I am with you, heart and soul." Then Jonathan said, "Behold, we will cross over to the men, and we will show ourselves to them. If they say to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we will stand still in our place, and we will not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up to us,' then we will go up, for the Lord has given them into our hand, and this shall be the sign to us." So both of them showed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, "Look, Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have hidden themselves." And the men of the garrison hailed Jonathan and his armor-bearer and said, "Come up to us, and we will show you a thing." And Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come up after me, for the Lord has given them into the hand of Israel." Then Jonathan climbed up on his hands and feet, and his armor-bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer killed them after him. And that first strike, which Jonathan and his armor-bearer made, killed about 20 men within, as it were, half a furrow's length in an acre of land. And there was a panic in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. The garrison and even the raiders trembled. The earth quaked, and it became a very great panic. And the watchmen of Saul in Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude was dispersing here and there. Then Saul said to the people who were with him, "Count and see who has gone from us." And when they had counted, behold, Jonathan and his armor-bearer were not there. So Saul said to Ahijah, "Bring the ark of God here," for the ark of God went at that time with the people of Israel. Now while Saul was talking to the priest, the tumult in the camp of the Philistines increased more and more. So Saul said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." Then Saul and all the people who were with him rallied and went into battle. And behold, every Philistine's sword was against his fellow, and there was very great confusion. Now the Hebrews who had been with the Philistines before that time, and who had gone up with them into the camp, even they also turned to be with the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. Likewise, when all the men of Israel who had hidden themselves in the hill country of Ephraim heard that the Philistines were fleeing, they too followed hard after them in the battle. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle passed beyond Beth-aven. And the men of Israel had been hard-pressed that day. So Saul had laid an oath on the people, saying, "Cursed be the man who eats food until it is evening, and I am avenged on my enemies." So none of the people had tasted food. Now, when all the people came to the forest, behold, there was honey on the ground. And when the people entered the forest, behold, the honey was dropping. But no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. But Jonathan had not heard his father charge the people with the oath. So he put out the tip of the staff that was in his hand and dipped it in the honeycomb and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes became bright. Then one of the people said, Your father strictly charged the people with an oath, saying, Cursed be the man who eats food this day. And the people were faint. Then Jonathan said, My father has troubled the land. See how my eyes have become bright because I tasted a little of this honey. How much better if the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies that they found. For now the defeat among the Philistines has not been great. They struck down the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon, and the people were very faint. The people pounced on the spoil and took sheep and oxen and calves and slaughtered them on the ground, and the people ate them with the blood. Then they told Saul, Behold, the people are sinning against the Lord by eating with the blood. And he said, You have dealt treacherously. Roll a great stone to me here. And Saul said, Disperse yourselves among the people and say to them, Let every man bring his ox or his sheep and slaughter them here and eat. And do not sin against the Lord by eating with the blood. So every one of the people brought his ox with him that night, and they slaughtered him there. And Saul built an altar to the Lord. It was the first altar that he built to the Lord. Then Saul said, Let us go down after the Philistines by night and plunder them until the morning light. Let us not leave a man of them. And they said, Do whatever seems good to you. But the priest said, Let us draw near to God here. And Saul inquired of God, Shall I go down after the Philistines? Will you give them into the hand of Israel? But he did not answer him that day. And Saul said, Come here, all you leaders of the people, and know and see how this sin has arisen today. For as the Lord lives who saves Israel, though it be in Jonathan my son, he shall surely die. But there was not a man among all the people who answered him. Then he said to all Israel, You shall be on one side, and I and Jonathan my son will be on the other side. And the people said to Saul, Do what seems good to you. Therefore Saul said, O Lord God of Israel, why have you not answered your servant this day? If this guilt is in me or in Jonathan my son, O Lord God of Israel, give Urim. But if this guilt is in your people Israel, give Thummim. And Jonathan and Saul were taken, but the people escaped. Then Saul said, Cast the lot between me and my son Jonathan. And Jonathan was taken. Then Saul said to Jonathan, Tell me what you have done. And Jonathan told him, I tasted a little honey with the tip of the staff that was in my hand. Here I am. I will die. And Saul said, God do so to me and more also, you shall surely die, Jonathan. Then the people said to Saul, Shall Jonathan die, who has worked this great salvation in Israel? Far from it. As the Lord lives, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has worked with God this day. So the people ransomed Jonathan, so that he did not die. Then Saul went up from pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. When Saul had taken the kingship over Israel, he fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab, against the Ammonites, against Edom, against the kings of Zobah, and against the Philistines. Wherever he turned, he routed them. And he did valiantly and struck the Amalekites and delivered Israel out of the hands of those who plundered them. Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchishua, and the names of his daughters were these. The name of the firstborn was Merab, and the name of the younger, Michal. And the name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. And the name of the commander of his army was Abner, the son of Ner, Saul's uncle. Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. There was hard fighting against the Philistines all the days of Saul. And when Saul saw any strong man or any violent man, he attached him to himself. It's a great compare and contrast between Jonathan and Saul. And I think that's deliberate. That we're supposed to hold these two figures up to each other and see their different responses under pressure.
Yeah, yeah. It just struck me as interesting that Jonathan didn't tell his dad what he was going to go do because he knew he would disagree.
Yeah.
Wouldn't let him take action.
Which is exactly what he did in chapter 13.
Yeah.
When he doesn't wait for his dad's command to go attack the garrison of the Philistines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's interesting that Jonathan doesn't listen to Saul and God doesn't talk to Saul.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end, when he inquires of the Lord, God is silent.
Yeah.
And you get the snapshot of the relationship there. The reason Jonathan is not listening to Saul is because Saul is not listening to God, and God is not talking to Saul.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, there's just this implicit relationship that Jonathan has with the Word and with, I guess, Samuel, or at least, with God through the temple. I mean, not the temple, just the system that's set up there.
Well, and he knows the Old Testament story. The Lord is not, what does he say? Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving by many or by few.
Yeah.
And that's the Old Testament story, whether it's Exodus or the story of Gideon, where God intentionally trims down Gideon's forces to show that very point. And so I think Jonathan has faith in the way God has acted in Israel's history and says, well, we know what God can do in these situations. So we either sit here and get wiped out or we do something.
Yeah, this story echoes a lot of that Gideon. I mean, everything from the testing, the fleece kind of situation, I think that's such a fascinating detail that they ask, they have a test of whether or not the Lord will answer them. I mean,
yeah, and it's interesting to compare and contrast those tests too, because in Gideon's case, he's timid.
Yeah.
And so he's putting out a fleece to know, will you really be with me? And God graciously accommodates him, even though we're not supposed to put the Lord to the test in that way. Whereas Jonathan is saying, here's an indicator that God is going to work for us. Let's go see what happens. And so Jonathan it's a faith-filled act of, if God responds in this way, that's the sign to us that we should attack. Versus Gideon is, I don't want to do anything. You gotta prove to me, God, that you're really with me before I'm going to get out of this, this wine press.
Yeah. And he goes through a couple of them too.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not convinced at first.
Yeah.
It struck me that the Hebrews understood that Gideon had worked with God.
Jonathan had?
Yeah, Jonathan had.
Right.
And so you think, well, how did we all want God to work with us?
Yeah.
But how did God work with him? Well, he stepped out on faith.
Yeah.
He stepped out and put himself in a situation where God had to work.
If anything was going to happen.
Yeah, if anything was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, it's so easy to want to manipulate God to try, well, if I do this, and this, then we'll see if God does something. Rather than say, no, God responds to faith.
Yeah.
And the point is not the test that he put out there. I don't know maybe it would have made sense if we were there at the time, right. Just in terms of the layout of the troops and all that stuff. But I don't think it mattered what the test was. The point was he was going to act on it.
In a way, Jonathan is saying, look, no matter how bad the strategy sounds, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because, the one thing they could use is the element of surprise. They're coming up over this crag, and maybe they can spring upon these soldiers and, perhaps it's a little outpost of the garrison in a place where there's not as many men aware that anything's going to happen, right? And so, but they give up the element of surprise immediately by revealing themselves. We're going to show themselves. And then they also fight from the lower ground to the higher ground. And so it's not like there's a strategic brilliance here on Jonathan's part. It's faith in God. It's saying that this is worth trying.
Yeah.
It's almost as if this plan seemed so crazy that the Philistines would be surprised.
That it just might work.
Well, yeah, I mean, that they would be surprised that they're actually doing this. Maybe they thought it was a peace envoy or something like that.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, it doesn't say, but it's like, it does have that element of just craziness to it.
Yeah. And the Lord saved Israel that day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the evident thing. That Jonathan it's amazing that they can kill 20 men, just the two of them, but it's the earthquake, it's the panic, it's the confusion.
Yeah.
It's all of these Hebrew mercenaries defecting all of a sudden and fighting other Philistines. And so you see an earthquake and then the Philistines all start fighting each other. You can imagine the panic that goes through the Philistine forces. What is happening? There's complete confusion. And this is the sign that the Lord's delivering his people.
Yeah. No, the only thing I thought about Jonathan's test was that he said, if they say, wait there and we'll come down to you, it meant they had a lot more troops up there. At the outpost, then they were ready to have a major foray. But the fact that he said, "Wait," he says, "Well, maybe there's enough guys we can." We'll at least attack them and see what happens. So I don't know.
Yeah, And I think that's the point. It's a faith-filled action.
Yeah.
And faith always entails a risk.
Yeah.
And this is a great risk, but I think the risk is proportional to the situation that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is that the Philistines have assembled the largest force we ever read about in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're outflanked to the north, to the east, to the west. They can only flee back into the wilderness in the south. That's their only option, is to run back into the desert, which is not a good option.
Yeah.
The reinforcements that could come from the north, there's no way for them to get here. And so, Saul has already retreated from the battle a bit back to Gibeah. I think Geba is up closer. Jonathan is up at the head of the battle, looking over this ravine, over where the Philistines are encamped. You got to think he's sitting there like, this is it, or God's going to do something. Mm-hmm. And no one in Saul's camp is going to be the one to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much foreshadowing what's going to happen with David.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the way Jonathan talks is a foreshadowing of David.
Yeah.
And there's this interesting parallel, because we know from chapter 13 that God is going to choose a king after his own heart. And it's not going to be from Saul's line. And that's kind of the tragedy of chapter 14, is you go, wow, Jonathan clearly is that kind of king, or could be that kind of king, but we know it's not going to be Jonathan. So, who else could be that guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. It's good. And then you have Saul, who, on the surface looks like bold leadership, right? This looks like a bold leader. And yet you look a little deeper and you go, this man can't inspire anyone. He's not responding in faith to God.
Right. No, he just wants to avenge himself on the Philistines.
Yeah.
And so he tells his people to don't eat anything all day while you fight.
Yeah.
As if he has to control their behavior. They won't keep fighting unless he puts this oath upon them.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle made that great point about the strength of your strengths. The strength that Saul had was his anger.
Yep.
And, but it was all about him and his vengeance. And again, that it in the initial leadership push from it kind of scared people into action.
Mm-hmm.
And in this way, it made people more resentful, or because it was so, arbitrary and so unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. You just get the sense that he's a guy who is very impulsive and rash.
Yeah.
And thinks that the way to lead is by making the most daring, assertive move possible, right? Even though it puts all of his men at great risk and ultimately endangers his own son.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you made the point that there's a lot of people that think that they have to do radical religious acts to prove their faithfulness, or to prove their gravitas, or whatever it is. And it just doesn't seem, that seems kind of like that's the type of guy he is in this situation.
Yeah. And it's just weird.
Yeah.
It's like there's no correlation between doing this thing and accomplishing this result, right? It's just, this will demonstrate how radical our faith is. And I think that's always the danger with people who want to take steps of faith, is they think, well, bigger is better. And so if I take the most daring step, then that's the sign that God will bless it. And that would be drawing the wrong lesson from Jonathan, because in Jonathan's situation, this is a step we've got to we've got to do something here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a danger for Christians, that, well, God blesses big faith, and so I'm going to, mortgage my future on this thing. Like, oh, that just goes against the entire book of Proverbs then.
Yeah, faith is in God,
right?
Not in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, I think, between this, is that if the focus is on me, something I have to prove, or something I have to demonstrate, or something I have to earn, or all these things, rather than in the God that is revealed in the Bible, our faith is in the wrong place.
Yep.
Yeah, even the size of the actions, Jonathan's ended up being a bigger thing, but the actual thing was just going up.
Let's go up.
Yeah, it was a simple next step type of operation.
Yeah, and you get a sense of Jonathan's, I don't want to read too much into the text, but there's almost a divine discontent in him. That, let's go up to these uncircumcised Philistines, which is similar to the language David uses then in chapter 17. Who are these these aren't the people of God. These are God's enemies, and they're going to taunt the living God. And I think that same sort of kind of exasperation with the situation is in Jonathan there, that we're not just going to sit back and let God's enemies taunt him this way. This is ridiculous. And I think you really see that he's responding to God's character, just like David is in his reputation.
Yeah.
We're just going to sit back and do nothing in this situation.
Yeah.
I like that you made that divine discontent statement in your sermon. And I call it redeeming restlessness.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, snap.
But I like the way you said that, because I was speaking with somebody yesterday about leadership, and I was thinking about the situations where I take leadership it's when you just see something and it's not right. That it could be done better. And it just, not without being, you don't want to be hypercritical or anything, but when the ball's being dropped and if nobody's there to pick it up, I mean, you have to step in. And that might, it's just a matter of finding those situations where you're feeling that urge of like, oh, I see that, I know this could be better. I know that something's wrong here.
Well, and I know that God is not pleased with this situation.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so someone has to do something. I'm not going to sit back and just let this continue.
Yeah.
I'd say that's godly ambition. Yeah. It's good. So risk versus recklessness, that's really what we see here. And, Saul is so reckless, he's willing to kill his own son to save face, which is not saving face at all. It's actually losing the people and inspiring contempt. Yeah. What criteria do you guys use to know, hey, when is it worth the risk, in taking a step of faith?
I think when obedience demands it. The issue is not how big a step of faith is this. It's just, what does it take to obey God in this situation?
Yes. And sometimes that's going to be a bigger risk than others.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. What he said.
Yeah, but there's sometimes, when obedience, doing the right thing or following God, you are walking into the unknown. And so, I think there's a level of risk anytime you're initiating towards someone to kind of to lead them, to initiate a spiritual conversation, all the things we always talk about. Like there's always this sense that I'm trusting God because I actually don't know the outcome of this situation.
Yeah. I am not in control.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's stepping into a situation you are unable to control.
Yeah.
In order to be obedient to God.
Right.
It's interesting, though. There are situations where I've found myself feeling that impulse to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I actually ended up doing was praying about it for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And God did something in that situation where, it was actually, because it was a situation where I really couldn't do anything about it. Changing somebody's heart or changing somebody's mind.
Yep.
That it was that the obedience actually was to pray.
Yep. Yeah.
And to wait and watch rather than to step in. Because I feel like I probably would have made more of a rash judgment. I think that my impulse was actually more Saul, saying something, making a radical movement,
Yeah. Checking your motivation is an important part of this.
Yeah.
But then if like you're saying, Dad, you're supposed to do something, that's where, I just think about, like, let's say you're trying to disciple your kid. The first time you ever try to sit down with your kid and read the Bible when they can read, if that hasn't been a habit, it's going to feel like, well, what are you doing? Like, why are we doing, you're going to feel some resistance. And then the natural is like, this isn't natural. We shouldn't do that. This is, there's got to be a better way. There's all sorts of reasons you can make that this is not the thing to do. And so it might feel like a small risk, but it's a risk nonetheless that, I'm realizing that I have to create a new rhythm in my family, and it's uncomfortable. It's pushing the relationship in a new direction.
Yeah. I used to think if it's hard, it's not from God.
Right.
because he's going to do it. And now I think of it as easy. It's not from God.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the way that we talk about peace in the Christian life can go awry.
Yeah.
You know, as if letting the peace of God guard you means kind of your own sense of anxiety or discomfort about anything you might be called to do. And knowing that until I'm in like perfectly calm and think, oh, that's going to be great, then I'm not called to do it. It's like, well, that's not even true of Jesus, right? Like Jesus in the garden didn't feel that. And so you won't either. So I think that's very, very true.
That's a good analogy. I was just looking up that verse in Colossians.
Yeah. Colossians 3.
Yeah. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called one body, and be thankful. He's talking about peace between people.
Right.
Not talking about a feeling of peace.
Right. Get along with each other.
He's saying, he says, let God's peace rule your relationships with people.
Yeah.
Be thankful. It's not about guidance. It's not about any of the things we're talking about.
Yeah. And Philippians 4, when it's do not be anxious, but, make your request known to God with thanksgiving. The assumption is you're anxious.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you're praying this prayer, is because you feel anxiety. Yeah. Right. That's what you do with your anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
So, waiting to not have a fear response is you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yeah. I'm sure Jonathan was scared.
Yep.
As they climbed up this mountain.
Yep. No courage without fear.
To see what God would do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's good. Good. Well, you already get the sense in this passage that Saul is on his way out. And I kind of think maybe the reason the Lord allowed that whole vow thing to happen with Jonathan was just to make it clear to the people that Saul is on his way out, that he's not the king that they need, right? Because then you get to chapter 15 and it becomes very clear that this guy is just not responding to the Lord.
Right.
So chapter 15, and Samuel said to Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint you king over his people Israel. Now therefore listen to the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I have noted what Amalek did to Israel in opposing them on the way when they came out of Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek and devote to destruction all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. So Saul summoned the people and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 men on foot and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and lay in wait in the valley. Then Saul said to the Kenites, depart, go down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For you showed kindness to all the people of Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. And Saul defeated the Amalekites from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive and devoted to destruction all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep and of the oxen and of the fattened calves and the lambs and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. All that was despised and worthless they devoted to destruction. The word of the Lord came to Samuel. I regret that I have made Saul king, for he has turned back from following me and has not performed my commandments. And Samuel was angry, and he cried to the Lord all night. And Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning. And it was told Samuel, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up a monument for himself and turned and passed on and went down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed be you to the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. And Samuel said, What then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears and the lowing of the oxen that I hear? Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites. For the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God, and the rest we have devoted to destruction. Then Samuel said to Saul, Stop. I will tell you what the Lord said to me this night. And he said to him, Speak. And Samuel said, Though you are little in your own eyes, are you not the head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you king over Israel, and the Lord sent you on a mission and said, Go devote to destruction the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Why did you pounce on the spoil and do what was evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said to Samuel, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord. I have gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me. I have brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and I have devoted the Amalekites to destruction. But the people took of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the best of the things devoted to destruction, to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, and presumption is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king. Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and your words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me, that I may bow before the Lord. And Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. As Samuel turned to go away, Saul seized the skirt of his robe, and it tore. And Samuel said to him, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you this day, and has given it to a neighbor of yours who is better than you. And also the glory of Israel will not lie or have regret, for he is not a man that he should have regret. Then he said, I have sinned. Yet honor me now before the elders of my people and before Israel, and return with me that I may bow before the Lord your God. So Samuel turned back after Saul, and Saul bowed before the Lord. Then Samuel said, bring here to me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag came to him cheerfully. Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. And Samuel said, as your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel hacked Agag to pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death. But Samuel grieved over Saul, and the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. I liked your focus on obedience here, Dad, because this is a great profile of what disobedience looks like.
Yeah.
Usually not just saying no. No, normally it's not a Jonah situation where you just say, no way, I'm going in the opposite direction. It's, yeah, I obeyed enough, or I obeyed.
Sorta.
The gist of what you said, I did.
Yeah.
Or it's look, I want to follow you. It's the people that, this is a team effort here, God. And the people aren't cooperative. And so I thought you did a great job of just showing why obedience is so important.
Oh, thanks. I mean, it's really a convicting passage, because we're all guilty of sort of obedience and not taking it seriously. But that's why I really wanted to connect obedience to faith, and faith to obedience, because it's so easy to think because we're saved by faith, we've done everything we need to do.
Yeah.
And obedience is hard, so I'll skip that part because I'm not saved by that anyway.
Yeah.
Rather than seeing that obedience really is the proof that you trusted God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of the growth of the obedience of faith that really proves to us that we are, in fact, saved. Yeah. That's what he saved us for. He saved us to obey him because he wants to bless our lives.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
So,
at Redwood, they take tests, and sometimes if they do poorly on the test, they let them retake the test.
Uh-huh.
I think God is gracious to us in the same way that we get a test and we don't quite get it, and then we're going to have to take that test again, and the test is obedience.
Yeah, and if you don't pass the test, God's going to take you back through it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, right? He'll keep you circling the wilderness until you learn the lesson.
Yeah. I mean, he wants more than anything for us to trust him, to learn the lesson and to obey.
Yeah. And it's interesting here. I mean, this is a challenging passage for many reasons. And it's
where shall we start?
Yeah, and you did a good job, and so this is me thinking out loud. I haven't come to a settled conclusion on it, but it's interesting. This is one of the many places where God says complete destruction, right? Every single thing devoted as a burnt offering. And yet it seems like this language is used in a number of places in the Bible, and then the Israelites do that, and those people still exist. So I'm not convinced that it literally means go in and wipe out every single human being as much as it means utterly incapacitate them. And this is just the Old Testament way of saying that, right? As opposed to, finding every infant and killing them. I'm still, that's an issue I would be willing to kind of keep considering, because so many times, what's the point of this passage? It's what Saul spares. And it says he devotes everything to destruction except Agag and the choice meat. And yet we know the Amalekites still, they show up later in the Old Testament, and they show up again and again. And so, Yeah, just a off comment on that language and how it might be working in the passage, and how literally to take that. Again, I'm not convinced either way on that. It's still something I'm kind of processing through. All that to say, though, it is significant what the narrator points out about what Saul keeps. Because what does Saul keep? It's very significant. He keeps the king alive and the best of the king's stuff.
Yeah. And it's in response to his people.
Yes.
It's what they want.
Yep.
And that's Saul's great weakness, is that he sees keeping everybody happy as the way he'll stay king.
Yeah.
Not keeping God happy, the way he'll keep king. And so he's a man pleaser.
Yep.
And that really comes out in this passage.
Well, he was the king that the people wanted.
Yeah.
And they also, I think it's interesting because he's saving another king. I think he has kind of a sympathy for a fellow worldly king. He doesn't want to see Agag, chopped to pieces, because ultimately it means it's his death too, because he's a worldly king.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a flex, though, right? It's that if we bring back the king alive, we get to parade him around, show, look at our victory, it's exactly what worldly kings would do.
Yeah,
it's a way of showing your power, just like taking the best of the spoil is a way. It's increasing the strength of our nation, and again, it's exactly the kind of behavior God says kings don't do in the Old Testament. Don't multiply your sheep, don't multiply your livestock, right? And trust me. And so again, he's a king like the nations.
Yeah. There's another thing that struck me about the way there's something about sacrifice, because we're not supposed to bring the lame animals for a sacrifice.
Right.
Like bring the best. And then essentially Saul was not willing to sacrifice the best.
No, he wanted to keep it for himself. Well, because the people wanted that. And there's some echoes of the golden calf here too, where Samuel comes back and goes, what's going on here? Just like Moses comes back and Aaron's like, the people, they had the thing and there was the gold. And I threw it, a calf popped out. You wouldn't believe it. And, the similar, like, I can't control the people. And yet, a chapter before he's saying, not a man will eat a morsel of bread unless I'm avenged. Right. And so he is, he's a weather vane.
He is. He's just like the people.
One other point you made, and I put a star on it, is that true confession is made to God and not man. And that's a thing that Saul doesn't really have a true relationship with God, because he says, you're God. He doesn't have the type of personal relationship. Whereas, David, when he's convicted, I've against you and you alone have I sinned. He really understands the nature.
That's a great point.
Of sin.
Yeah. And it's interesting here. You get another window into God's character and how he views our obedience, right? Because it's so interesting. God says, I regret. And then later he says, I'm not a man that I should regret. And so which one is it? Do you regret or not?
Yeah.
And it seems that, and you made a good point of this. When we talk about God's impassibility, which I think you need to believe, I think that is the kind of the classical and a true biblical view of God, is that when we say God is impassible, it doesn't mean that he has no emotion or affection. What it means is that the affections and emotions he feels are always in perfect harmony with his ultimate purpose, will, attributes. So the way God is unlike us is that he is not overwhelmed or fundamentally changed by those things, right? Like I can do something, get mad, then do a completely different thing.
Yeah.
God's anger or God's grief is perfectly consonant with his will.
Yeah.
And yet even here, God knows that his ultimate will is not to install Saul as king. And so you have that kind of these two truths of the divine nature held up together, that God is unchanging in his nature, his character, his purpose, his will. And yet when we disobey, it grieves God.
Yeah.
And I think you pointed that out. The regret here is not, oops, I made a mistake. It's I grieve. I lament what Saul has done.
Yeah. I knew he would do this,
right?
But I still grieve that he did it.
Yeah,
because I care about him.
Yeah, and there's an analog of that we have a limited analogy of that too in our lives, where you just see someone going off the handle and they're going to destroy their lives, even if you're pretty convinced they're about to make more bad decisions. You're still grieved that they do. Just because you have a good sense of what they're about to do doesn't mean you're not torn up about it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a window into the heart of God that obedience is not something he's indifferent about, that
Right.
he really cares about our obedience, and the Spirit of God is grieved when we sin.
Because he cares about us.
Yes.
It's not that his standard wasn't met. That's not the point. The point is,
That's part of the point.
That's more of a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what he created us,
Right.
because he's good, because to bless us. And that's why he hates sin, because sin destroys people.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was just that it offends him, he'd just wipe us all out and start over.
Right. Yeah, but he cares about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to see us flourish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that you ended kind of application wise to really just focus on God's love for us and remember and meditate on that. And that's really an important part. You know, that prayer from Ephesians has been, since we heard it at DLD, it's been on my heart.
Yeah.
A
conference we went to.
Yes.
For the listeners.
Yes. Yes. And I've just been praying that prayer a lot for people I love and for myself, just to really understand and comprehend the depth and the width and the breadth of God's love. Yeah.
And I think by bringing up obedience, I think it's a point you made well is we can assume we're obeying and not be.
Yeah.
And I think that's where confession to God, getting in the word, is so important, because I think Saul thinks he's obeying.
Yeah.
As you read this passage.
Yeah.
He says, I've obeyed.
Yeah.
I've done it. And he's like, that is not what I told you to do.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, but the people did it, and that is this natural tendency of the fallen human heart is to go, yeah, no, I did it. I got it. I did it enough, and to not realize where we're falling short of God's standard. And so I've been thinking about this, just where do I assume I'm obeying, or where I think I've covered my bases, but if I look more closely, I have not followed what God actually says there.
Yeah.
I'm not in the specifics. And I think the reason it's important, and I've been thinking about this in light of James 1, where he says, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously, but let him not doubt. For whoever is doubting is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. What does that mean to doubt? I think it means this: God will lead you, but when you know the right thing to do and don't do it, don't expect, if you ask God for more wisdom, he's going to give you more wisdom.
Yeah.
Because you have already shown that you're not willing to follow the wisdom he gives. Does that make sense?
Oh,
and
yeah.
So that's caused me to step back and go, I can't ask God for wisdom unless I am willing to obey in the areas that God is calling me to obey. And I can't expect more from God in terms of divine direction if I'm not taking the direction he's already given me.
Yeah. And he wrote a whole book for us to give us that direction, and so I think that's it. The obedience of faith knows that the only way I can know what God wants me to do is from the scriptures.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's what Saul was sloppy. He didn't listen very well in terms of what God had told him to do. And so, as you said, that's why he thought, I did it, and he completely missed the point. And I think that, all the ways of a man are clean in his own sight,
Yes.
but the Lord weighs the heart. And that's why David says, search me, O God, and know my heart. I can't discern my errors. I can't see where I'm disobedient. I need God to reveal that to me. And I need to go to him every day, because I'm always in danger of missing what he has for me. Help me to see where I'm falling, to confess it and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. And I think the application you gave is a great place to start, is where do you know you're not obeying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the most uncomfortable question. Because I thought, I kind of know. And the Lord has been putting something on my heart over the last few weeks where it's a put off. I'm going to put it off. I'm going to,
Yeah.
And God graciously keeps, the Spirit puts his thumb there and won't let up, because this is the area you need to focus on. So it's a good reminder.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like you, Ed, right as you were giving your benediction, it was kind of like, just get in the Word. Go look.
Well, if you don't have something that you know you're delaying obedience in, you're just not reading your Bible enough. Because
exactly. Yeah, if you're not there, and it's the great mirror, Just
you haven't looked at the mirror in a while. If you don't think there's anything to clean up.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thanks, guys. It's good stuff.
Thank you,
listeners. Thank you. Hope you profited from this. We'll talk to you again soon.